Bench opinions. 3 idiots with amateur analysis.
I'm a bit worried about the amount of data I'm using here.
Okay.
Maybe I need to buy more.
Might have to get another 10 gigs there, bro.
I'm fucking motoring through it here. Oh, God. I'm buying more airtime. Wait.
It's the internet in South Africa getting you down.
Well, I underestimated how much data it would use streaming off my phone.
I'll lose some weight before next week, bro. Then you use less data to watch me.
Okay, let's do this.
Welcome back to the studio. Episode 19.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been an eventful week.
Week after week after week.
And now, Maxi's still in South Africa, struggling with the internet.
I've only been here for a week. He's like, I'm still in South Africa. I haven't been here that long.
It was long enough. I mean, you were here last week and you're still there. I mean, it's English. He's just using the English language. I don't know what he should say.
Well, it's insinuated that I'm constantly on holiday. I've just been here for 10 days, you know?
Oh, no, he's touched there. It sounds like someone who's on holiday too much.
People at my work think I'm on holiday too much.
But they should all go on holiday more, I reckon. What's the story, other than you using Vumatel or whatever it is you're using? What's happening that side?
No, I got sunburned. You guys saw the photo. My classic theory that I usually use when tanning is get in the sun without any sunscreen for like 15 minutes and then just get the skin nice and activated, you know, and then go inside and put on sunscreen. But this time I left it a bit too long. I think I was in the sun like unprotected for like 45 minutes.
I think the less we say about that, the better.
South African sun just slaps differently, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does. It really does.
Not smart, Maxi, I would say, for your health. But you learned. Did you then like double down and burn the other side of your body the next day?
No, then I was walking around with a long t-shirt, like a rash vest almost the rest of the time.
It's like being on the beach in Australia. Like they dress those kids up like mummies.
A lot of ginger kids also walk around with rash vests. I'm sure that's unrelated.
And fat kids and people, yeah.
So did you have your chasing tail top on the whole time?
They came in handy, my friend. Yes. Paid for themselves by now.
Is that your observation of the week?
No. My observation comes live from Woolworths yesterday.
Nice.
I was in there with my dad, and they have like in normal supermarkets in South Africa, they've got the express checkout queue for if you have less than 10 items. And we were at the front, and then my dad turns around and there's a lady with a full-on shopping cart behind him. And he pipes up and goes, "That doesn't look like 10 items." And I said to him, "Just leave it, you know? Just leave it. It's not your business." And then you could see she was already pissed off. And we walk out and he says, "But Maxi, it's wrong, don't you think? It's wrong and people take advantage." I said, "Yeah, but it's not your fucking job to police this." And he says, "Well, the cashiers aren't going to police it, so someone has to." And I just thought to myself, am I wrong for just letting this happen? Or are you the one who has to enforce justice as a shopper at Woolworths?
Do we as society have to keep each other honest? I guess is the question, right?
It is a tightrope. It's a moral tightrope, because to a certain degree, I do think like if everyone were just allowed to do what they want, it wouldn't be a good thing. No. And if the express checkouts exist so that if you are popping in quickly to then get out quickly, it's there as a convenience to people. And then if Tani has bought everything she needs for Christmas Day and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and she's going to the express checkout and holding people up, I do think it is an inconvenience to other people. So I feel like those kind of systems only work if people abide by them.
Maybe she also just didn't realize where she was standing.
No, come on, Klaus. Dude, let's not assume innocence here. This lady knew exactly what she was doing. This is where we have to sort of respect the Germans a little bit more, in the sense that they like to police. They don't need the police to be there because every citizen there is its own policeman. So I think there's a fine line between the two.
I think your dad's approach also says a lot about his origins, because the way he did it was quite German, actually. You could just say, "Excuse me, sorry, this is the express checkout." And it seems like you have a few more items, but then to ask a Saki question like, "That doesn't look like 10 items." I think that's the issue here then, as opposed to him trying to like, uphold the systems in which he lives.
I think he thinks he's like Batman. Batman of the Woolworths.
"Those don't look like 10 items. Batman's upset."
Would have been funnier, actually.
Anyways, what have you guys observed in the last week?
You want to go? Or should I go?
Go for it, Klaus. Surprise me.
So I'm not going to talk about the rugby yet, but I was watching a little bit of rugby, the Lions game, and there was a lot of lightning. And you could see in the crowd was quite shook and a little bit nervous. And it just made me think about this date that I went on a couple months ago. And it must have been like half a year ago. And there was lightning and we were sitting outside and I was like, okay, this is not good. We need to start moving indoors. The Germans didn't move an inch. And I just thought to myself, do Europeans not have enough respect for lightning?
It's weird because my experience is different. My experience is that Europeans are overly they're like, oh my God, what's happening? Maybe I just hang out with
South Africans.
No, or just people that are overly terrified of things. But yeah, I take lightning seriously as well. I was on the golf course with my dad once, and we were on the ninth tee box, and they really didn't want to go off. But who wants to go off when you're on a golf course and there's lightning coming in? And we're standing on the tee box, and I'm like, guys, this is getting a little bit close, and it keeps whacking and whacking. And it was Eagle Canyon in Johannesburg, which is apparently I've heard one of the most lightning hit places on earth. And they're like, no, man, let's just finish the hole. It's not close. It's not close. I'm not joking. About 30 seconds before I stand over the ball with the club, there's a strike and it hits a palm tree 120 meters from us. And this palm tree just goes up in smoke. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they weren't so loud. So I like your tactic, Klaus. You must be wary from what comes above there.
It's terrifying, man. And there's so much power behind those things. You don't want to be caught on the wrong side of it.
You or your date getting struck by lightning is a surefire way to end a date early.
The good thing is
there was a spark between us.
Oh God! The good thing is if the good thing is most dates that go out with you, Klaus, I can rest assured that you're probably getting hit because you're taller. I think that's a comforting thing for a woman to know if she goes on a date with you, that if lightning strikes, she's probably going to hit you.
Dude, as soon as that first lightning comes, I'm lying flat on the ground, sprawled eagle. They're like, what's going on here?
In a puddle, and then it hits a tree, and you. Yeah. I hope that's why I've booked most of our golf early in South Africa, because I'm not about those afternoon thunder showers ruining a good round of golf.
Let's avoid that. Yeah.
My observation for the week is people that use absolutely no phone protector or cover. I was surrounded last week by a bunch of people that were using iPhones. And I just think to myself, if you're that comfortable with impending ruin, despair, and stress in your life, then you can't be well.
I agree with that. That's wild. It's always seemed wild to me. And whenever someone has that, they're always like, oh yeah, either it's a work phone, or they're like, oh no, but I've never broken a phone before. And I'm like, who are you? That are you fucking Spider-Man? Because it's not, I don't drop my phone on purpose. It's just sometimes you try to pick it up and you fucking fling it 4 meters across the room, kick it on the way down because you think you can catch it with your foot. And I don't understand how you never drop your phone.
Especially those new, I don't know about the Samsung phones, but the iPhones are smooth on the back. They're really slippery. So I'll just get a cover just for grip
Are you trying to insinuate that Samsungs aren't smooth, Klaus? Because they are fucking smooth, okay? They're very smooth. They're smoother than all iPhones.
Oh, that's why you have sandpaper, your phone wrapped in sandpaper.
No, grip.
In case you get into the Australian cricket team.
That is also.
Do you know who would be a real psycho? Is if you met on a date, Klaus, a woman who wasn't afraid of lightning and didn't have a phone cover.
I think so.
It's just red flags all around.
That's the bit of advice this week for everyone.
Just check their phone.
And if you do not have a cover and you're watching this podcast, then you need to go get analyzed.
We're talking to you.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Should we move into some sports?
That's what we're here for.
Let's do it.
Let's start off with the Rugby European Champions Cup. So there's 4 pools, and in 3 of them we have South African teams, which we are, I guess, are most focused about. But this week didn't go well for either of them, hey?
Can I just say something? Nothing about this tournament, actually, and the Challenger Cup makes any sense.
In what regard?
The results.
Oh, yeah. The results this week were wild.
I have no clue what's going on.
When I saw that Racing 92 lost by that far to Sale, I was like, wow. Ooh.
Yeah, no. either the games were like 1 point difference, or it was pretty significant wins. A very lopsided table this week.
Having watched Super Rugby for that long, you get a bit of an understanding of the competition, who's who. The Chiefs are better than the Western Force, that kind of vibe. But we're very new to the European Cup and the Challenge Cup, so I think it'll take us a few years to understand who's who in the zoo here.
The three of us have been playing the predictor game on Superoo with a couple other mates. And I think, Dominic, you actually fared off quite well this week, but Maxi and I don't think did well at all.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's also so crazy to see when you see the picks of everyone else, how often like all of us are wrong. Like every single one of us are wrong. But yeah, there's some crazy results in there. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk us through them, but yeah.
Well, I wanted to know from Maxi if he watched the Stormers game or at least saw highlights.
Yeah, I was in the middle of the Karoo, so I couldn't watch any of the games, but I watched the highlights yesterday, and it's quite damning for the Stormers to ship 50 points to anybody, and just shows you the state of the team currently. It was a very experimental squad, but still, it's not a good look for a coach who says he prides himself on their defense. That's the defense similar to what Manchester United used to put up in the past few seasons. So
it's because you're only signing shit players. That's your problem.
This is actually where it's a very good bridge to where I wanted to get to. Is I feel like South African teams, and I'm referring mainly to the Stormers and maybe the Bulls as well. We always have a very good starting 15, maybe a good match day 23, but the full squad of 40 players or so seems to always have some massive gaps in it. And that's where, at Springbok level, where we pride ourselves on having this incredible depth, but why can't our unions develop the same sort of depth? What's the issue? Are they so forced to eke out result after result that they can't afford to bleed a 40-man squad? Because I don't know where that gap comes in.
Well, I think the main reason for it is South Africa's number one export being rugby players. We just lose all of our top tier players to the French leagues, the British league, or the Premier League and Japan. So all of our good players go, and the ones that we can retain, they are then part of that starting 15, and then the rest we have to fill up with people who are not quite cutting the mustard.
I think Sanelo Nohamba moving to Japan now is the perfect example. I think it's someone who's there on the fringes of also the Springbok team, etc. And now he's moving. And I think I said to Klaus, off air, so to speak, that it does seem like players are either getting into the Springbok team, and that sort of prolongs their time in South African rugby, in Union rugby. And if they're on the fringes for too long or they're not getting a shot, then they're going to make the move, which is completely understandable. Oh, yeah. Obviously, Rassie does pick players from the international leagues, but I would say the majority of them are guys that have done the hard yards in South African Union rugby. I think it's very rare that guys, not very rare, but it doesn't happen as much that guys are picked straight out of one of the European leagues without, obviously there's exceptions, but without having first done the hard yards in the South African unions.
Absolutely. But also to what Maxi said last week, the Stormers are obviously fielding tons and tons of injuries. Even just watching this game against Racing, the half the team that you used to seeing was not there. Even Damien Willems was sitting up in the coach's box, taking on more of a coaching role, which seemed quite interesting, or at least an analyst role. But yeah, you definitely saw that they were lacking in many parts of their team structure.
So yeah, Damien Willems wanted to stay close to the team during his injury, so that's where they get them up to the stands. On a positive note for the Stormers, Seabelo Senatla made a comeback, which is very cool. I find he's been on. I'd actually hand up there, completely forgotten about him. He was injured for so long, had quite a serious injury. He's back, so that's the only positive we have. And our captain Salman Murat has said there was some real positives to take away from that drubbing, so we're going to get better now. So, I mean, that's it, I think. I think we're going to win the URC.
I think Senatla came back from a car accident, actually, which is quite crazy.
Massive car accident.
Yeah.
It was actually really traumatizing for the guy because he almost lost his leg. So obviously would have been the end of his career. And then the commentators were actually talking about the fact that because of his onset depression from that accident, he found the bottle, had a massive drinking problem. So even once he had recovered, he was struggling with alcohol addiction. And it was one of the managers at the Stormers that managed to sort of convince him to put down the beer and go for a run, and eventually got him back into the Stormer squad. So great to see him back. Different to see him now because he doesn't have his dreadlocks anymore. So I didn't recognize him at first.
Aged when he got sent off. I watched the last 20 minutes. When he got sent off, I was like, "Who is this person?" Yeah. And then when his name popped up, I was like, "Wow, yeah, it's good to see him back." Coming back though to your performance and what you were saying about the performance, that last 20 minutes that I watched, that score is flattering to the Stormers. Those Oaks ran through them like a hot knife through butter.
Oh yeah.
Particularly when they were down to, because I think at a stage they were down to 13. There was a second yellow. Yeah, there were 2 yellows at the end. That could have been really bad. So maybe Dobson has got something going on. He's good at not shipping 70 points when you're down to 13, man. That's something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the positive that Murat was taking out of it. He's like, "Bro, did you see they could have scored 80." Anyway, let's stop bashing the Stormers and move on, I guess.
Let's move on to the Bulls, who played at home. They played at home against the Northampton Saints. You would think that the Bulls at home would at least be able to win.
I told you to watch them, bro.
Yeah, watch the Bulls. Watch the space. And then what happened, Dominic? 21-30, they lost.
I don't think Jake White likes this competition.
No.
So I think that's the problem. I think it's when your coach is publicly coming out and pretty much saying, "Listen, I have to neglect something. I'm going to neglect this." I also wonder how that translates and projects to the players. I think Northampton are a very good side. I don't think it was too much of a humbling, but you would expect Loftus to be a bit more of a fortress than the Bulls, kind of. But the Saints always seemed in control, really.
Don't you think that Maxi that keeps on asking the same question? Why are we even in the competition if franchises like the Bulls don't really care for it?
I don't think he did that last year, but this year he's not playing as weak of a squad as he was. I don't know if it's just maybe like, teething issues. We need to get used to playing these teams. We played in Super Rugby for a while. We did hit the ground running in the URC, but it is different levels of competition. And let's be honest, maybe some of these oppositions we're playing are really good. And we need to get used to that it's just a higher standard of rugby. So I think it's a bit early to question whether we deserve to be in it or whether we should be in it. I know a lot of European fans will jump on the bandwagon just because it's quite strange for them to still accept South African teams. But I think if we sort of get 1 or 2 more years, I honestly think that the Sharks could put a run together. I know they struggled a bit this week, but they definitely seem like someone who've got the squad depth to do it.
So it's interesting that you talk about the Sharks. Because one of our friends, Knight, sent me an article over the week in response to our previous podcast where we were talking about, like, do we even care about being in this competition? And it was talking about the different changes that were made in terms of rotation of the players to manage the games, especially with traveling north and south the entire time, which is also crazy because I don't know if you guys know, but we fly economy and we fly over Doha. So these guys, I mean, imagine having a 140 kilogram prop sitting in economy for 16 hours and then have to play 4 days later. Like that's crazy. You're never going to give yourself a fighting chance to do that. So they are sending certain players over, keeping some players back in South Africa just to sort of manage their exhaustion, I guess. So when you look at the Sharks, they omitted a lot of their star players, i.e. your Ebenezabeth, your Siya Kolisi's and such. But they got absolutely walloped by Leicester Tigers, 56-17.
We look very good, it must be said as well. Pollard, 2 man of the match performances back to back for them.
He played unbelievably well.
Yeah, but I think it's what we come back to, and it's something that you touched on, Maxi, as well. I think it is learning the squad management. How do you pick games? You look at the fixture list and you go, okay, where do we need to get points? You're doing a lot of sort of Duckworth-Lewis system. Let's hope Mark Boucher isn't it doing for them. But you're doing a lot of sort of looking and calculating and then seeing.
Who else was in the change room? He was out there batting. Someone came out and told him.
Yeah, but that he doesn't say, listen, can you count? Anyway, let's not digress here. But yeah, I think it is a lot of that, and I think you're 100% right. I think it's going to be something that we have to try and learn to master the longer we stay in these competitions.
Let's quickly run through some of the scores. So we had a close score with Castres and Munster, which was 16-14. Ulster Bordeaux was a bit of a run over by Bordeaux. It was 19-40. Then Leicester Sharks, as you said, was 56-17, which was obviously a big win to Leicester. Leinster Clermont, 15-7, so very low scoring game. Then we had a very close game between Benetton and Bath, 22-21. I watched that game, and Benetton played unbelievably well, and Bath just couldn't.
They've got that in them this year, hey, Benetton.
It's unreal.
They just seem to be able to just turn it on at times. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got La Rochelle and Bristol, 35-7. So La Rochelle really putting Bristol to shame there. Toulon and Glasgow, 30-29. Glasgow fighting back at the end with a last minute, I think 2 last minute tries, but couldn't convert the final one. Stade Français was Saracens, 17-28. Saracens, they looking pretty strong. Harlequin Stormers, 53-16. And Exeter versus Toulouse. I don't have the score written down, but it was something crazy like 53 to Toulouse, and I think Exeter had like 21 or 27 or 28. So Toulouse looking very strong. You know, the combination of Intermark and Antoine Dupont obviously showing that they are a great combination for France, but especially for Toulouse.
Sorry, did you guys? I was gone for a second there. Did you guys cover Benetton versus Bath? Because that seemed like a big surprise to me.
Yeah, we were just
Benetton
talking about it for shortly, but go for it to tell us some more.
Well, this is where what Dom said. Sort of this. I feel like this competition is more up in the air than you could, because Bath, I think the week before put up I don't know if they beat. Didn't they play La Rochelle? Who did they play the week before?
They're also leading the Premiership. So it is a weird one. But I was saying to Klaus, as you were just gone for a second, that Benetton just seem to be a side that have it in them, a really good performance in them, and they can shock some teams. So they've been doing it in the URC as well.
Exactly.
I managed to buy airtime there, so I'm back on my phone now. So
nice.
We're in now.
That's why you're so high definition.
So
nice.
We wonder why you cleared up so much. Okay. So then we'll move over to the Challenger Cup. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I guess it's the more inferior of the competitions. But we do have 2 South African teams in there, Lions and the Cheetahs. The Lions played against Pau, or Poloise, or whatever, however you pronounce the full name of it. It was a 43-35 game in the rain at Ellis Park. As I said earlier on, lots of lightning. But yeah, there were some great tries, great team tries as well. Edolf van der Merwe scoring a couple. Krappies, or Morne van den Berg, got man of the match. He played extremely well. But we were talking about Sanilo Nohamba for a second there. He's now signed a contract to move over to Japan. And why is he not on the squad? Because we had some Nico Steyn playing as the second scrum half. But I don't understand why we don't have somebody like Sanilo Nohamba in the squad, because that guy is so versatile. We just haven't used him.
Sure. I mean, you just do question what's going on behind the scenes. Some players are really good at negotiating contracts elsewhere, not getting their head turned, putting on performances, and others not so much. So who knows? Could have something to do with that. Coach looking for a long-term commitment or looking to build, or I guess he also could have had a tough week, a niggle, been sick that you didn't find out about, I guess. But yeah, it is strange. If he's fit, I don't know how he doesn't get into that side.
Especially with a guy like Sanilo Nohamba who can play scrum half and fly half. Do you think it's been a little bit of a detriment to his career at the Lions that they've been putting him in at fly half where he's maybe physically not big enough for that position?
Well, sure. I think there's other examples of it. I mean, I think Cheslin Colby's early career was plagued by the same thing, only because his was a bit different, but it also was a size issue to a large degree. People saying that at his size, he should probably play scrum half. But I think he doubled down and that benefited him long term. And who knows, maybe, it took Cheslin's move overseas to really get him going in the Springbok lineup. Maybe it has a similar effect for Nohamba. Maybe he goes to Japan, maybe he cements himself at either scrum half and fly half, and then you can't overlook him. So I think definitely a positive move. I don't see the point in sticking around and being a bench warmer at best for the Lions, both financially and otherwise. I think it'll be a good move for the player.
Let the Oaks earn their money, if you're not getting selected for the Springboks, go overseas, earn your money. A rugby player's career is short. It's a pity that we're not at a point yet where South African teams can pay that money. But I guess taking the state of the nation as a whole into account, it would be weird if our rugby was paying people millions. But I know that with this the deal, what is it that the Springboks had declined. I know there's a new one on the table with a few South African investors. Maybe something like that can bring a bit more money into South African rugby. But then again, it's middle of December. People are on a holiday, and then if you look at the attendance at the Bulls game, it really wasn't great. So you almost get a sense that maybe people also have a threshold of how much rugby they can watch and how much they can take and what they're willing to give. And I think we can't complain unless we're selling out stadiums every week or on a lot of the occasions, especially when it comes to the Heineken Cup, because players will want to play in front of full stadiums as well.
I mean, there's two, as you said, there's two positives to moving abroad. The one is obviously the money that you can earn with such a short career as rugby players have. You want to try and maximize the most out of it, and you're not earning the same amount of money as like a football player or tennis players or something like that. But the second thing is also the experience that you gain from playing a different style of rugby against a different type of opponent, and that has benefited the Springbok outfit immensely since we've started incorporating more international players into our squad.
I agree 100%. I think also going back to what Maxi touched on with this investment deal that kind of was on the table that got rejected from the US investment firm, and now they're looking at some people like Rupert, some massive billionaires, one of the guys from the ShopRite group as well, coming in and saying, listen, we're happy to look at this. I like a merit-based system, and I think South Africa, it's easy for us to say it now after winning 2 World Cups in a row, but there is a sense of merit to all of this, in the sense that if you're good enough to make it to the Springboks, you're going to be looked after probably a little bit better if you are in South Africa. So that means that's the carrot. But if you're good enough and you're not making it into Springboks for whatever reason, with the depth we have and everything going on, it's difficult to break into that Springbok side. There is still a merit in going overseas, and you have to be a certain quality to get overseas. And I like that, because the carrot dangle in front of your face is the ability to earn much better money and play a high level of rugby, and I really love that. I think if you look at South African football, for example, is the perfect example where the merit and money situation is not in balance. So especially in the top 5 clubs in South Africa, they're earning disproportionately large amounts of money for a very low level of football. So you're not encouraging a youngster who's 18, 19 to go to the Belgian second division or the Swedish first division to learn and grow as a player, because he's going to earn a fraction of the amount of money if he's playing for the Pirates, and getting a contract there. So I want to avoid that, and I hope even with this new, and I think because they are South Africans that will most likely invest, I hope that that's something that's kept in place. Encourage players to go out, get better, invest the money at lower levels or grassroots level, or at least at lower club level, like Maxi said, for example, to keep dudes a little bit longer so our squads get bigger and better. But I do think South African rugby kind of has developed a sweet spot that in the end always circles back and benefits the Springboks, which is obviously something that we want to see.
It'll be very interesting to see that in the future. At the end of the day, I think we're happy for any player who manages to get out there and earn a good wage and a good salary. So, good luck to him in his career in Japan. I think the only thing is we're obviously sad to lose out on a guy like that, especially a team like the Lions desperately need great players like that to keep us in the competition.
And for a player like him, he'll be big in Japan.
He will be big in Japan.
It's a pity he's not going to Toulouse, because then you could say it's a pity we're losing to lose him to Toulouse.
Moving on to the Cheetahs.
I think my sense of humor is underappreciated on this podcast.
I think the sun's gotten to you personally.
Yeah, that sunburn fried your brain. Yeah, just to wrap off the Challenger Cup before we move on to the Premier League, the Cheetahs lost to Cardiff in Cardiff 26-10. Cardiff seems to be playing better in this competition than they were playing in the URC. So that's interesting to see.
Look, I know the Cheetahs got a draw. I think they got a draw last week, right?
Yeah.
But also worrying signs there. After fighting talk from Frans Steyn, he came out saying he wants to get them back into the Super Rugby, etc. And they've got a lot to prove and they can compete and whatever. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. It's not the way they would have wanted to start. And I think, yeah, look, Cardiff away is not easy and they're probably also managing players. But let's see how that progresses for them, because they're going to have to keep proving themselves in order to cement their future in rugby competitions, I think.
100%. Cool. Let's wrap up the rugby then and move over to some Premier League. I would say that we would start with the big derby, Manchester City versus Manchester United. I'm not going to field this question to Dominic because he's biased. Muxie's going to talk about it.
I caught a bit of the game. And yeah, when I joked last week that it was a mid-table derby, sometimes the level of football really did seem like that. But you guys did win. It was a well-fought win, and especially when looking back at Pep celebrating after their goal and sort of holding his hand into the camera, it just makes you feel so good. And it's such a typical thing, you score one in the 87th and the opposition gets so nervous and capitulates, and you score a second one in the 89th. That second goal was awesome. It was a sick goal. And if you guys do sort of pick up some momentum now, because sometimes it just takes a result or two to change a team's fortune, good for you, because I do like your coach. And I'm also super appreciative that the player who scored and who made the most impact was not signed by Dan Ashworth.
Good. So you're validated. I have to say that the level of football was terrible, and I think it played into United's hands. City looked really bad, really bad. Decision making is poor, particularly after we went 1-0 down. The old City would have just turned the screws, or at least managed the game to a point where they probably end up cruising to 2-0 victory. I think that a lot can be said about the City part of that, but I think a lot can also be said about Amorim and the work he's doing and what he's starting to instill in the squad. I think Ten Hag was very, very, very good at going 1-0 down early, and then our sides would just limp to a defeat. And I think that was very different yesterday. I felt like there was a plan, and even after the goal, which was, I must say, I wouldn't say against the run of play, but was relatively lucky with the deflection that the cross got and came out of nowhere. There seemed to just be this sort of sense of calm. Stick to your plans, keep going, keep doing your thing. And I must say, we grew into the game. We definitely got better as the game went on. And I don't think it was undeserving in the end. I think at the end of the day, the best player on the pitch decided it. Ahmad was brilliant yesterday, and he continues to grow, which is good. But yeah, brilliant. A little bit of a side note to all of this. Also off the back of Amorim leaving out Garnacho and Rashford. A lot going on around the club, talks about people leaking lineups, etc. It's now come out a couple of times that United are prepared to sell Rashford as early as January. Make of that of what you will. It's a rumor until something happens. I don't think it would be the worst move for the player or the club, considering on the wages he's on. But again, for him to really put it down, and he answered the questions with regards to this situation so well before and after the game. I think there's just so many things that are happening around Amorim and the club that a lot of people have been crying out for. It was unheard of for anyone to drop Rashford in the last few seasons. And for someone to go ahead and do that, no matter how badly he played, is brilliant. So nice. City are in massive problems. I think this is really an issue for them. And I hope for them, honestly, I don't like the club. I don't agree with what they stand for. But it would be sad to see Pep's wheels completely come off, because every time I think he's gone as low as possible and they'll start to find their way, there seems to be another element of like him completely losing it. So I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't think it would be sad at all.
Talk us through that second goal, because from what I saw, Ahmad received a ball over his head, a very light touch on his toe, and then managed to cross it over through some legs into the goal. Walks through his career, because you mentioned to me off air that he was signed for way too much money when he was quite young, and now he's blossoming.
I think we signed him as an 18-year-old from Atalanta for £37 million at the time, and no one had really heard of him. So it was quite a shock amongst fans as well. He went out on loan as well but went back to Atalanta on loan, and then went out to Sunderland on loan and had a brilliant season at Sunderland. winning their young player of the season and everything. And then, funny enough, people were criticizing Ten Hag for not playing him more, both last year and this year. He got a bit of an injury last year, so it was a bit tricky. But this year, he was in and around the squad and actually had a great August. He won our Player of the Month and the Premier League Player of the Month, I think, even for August, if I'm not wrong, or definitely our Player of the Month. And then Ten Hag dropped him inexplicably and didn't play him at all. And as soon as Amorim came in, he started playing him for the first couple of games out of position at right wing back, but he's now moved him more attacking, so he's just playing just behind the striker, and he's been our best player. I mean, him and Mazraoui have been head and shoulders above the rest of our squad, and he's only 22, so the sky's the limit for him, I think. Let's see where he can go, and it's cool because he's very slight, he's quite small, very quick, very technical, which is also maybe not the most common sort of player you're seeing these days, so it's quite cool to see.
Nice. Is there anything anybody wants to mention about the game? I think
Kyle Walker we can touch on.
Kyle Walker is a bit of a worse, but when I saw Kyle Walker, I don't know who he was going head to head with.
Højlund, yeah.
Højlund. And Højlund literally just touched his forehead with his forehead, and Kyle Walker went to the ground and complained about concussion, I guess. That's the kind of thing that puts me off of football. But
I find it amazing that players are still doing that with video assistant referee and sort of that the whole replay situation, because it's such a bad look, and it also because to me that also puts your whole character into question, because it's actually you're actually starting to see a bit of it in rugby these days as well. As soon as a player notices a bit of contact to their head, they fucking grab their head and they fling themselves backwards, and it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, even the commentator said Kyle Walker will be looking back at that footage and should be embarrassed.
I think in rugby, as well as this situation with Kyle Walker, it's just a clear attempt to try and get your opponent sent off. I think there's nothing else. You can't defend himself any other way. I think with Kyle Walker, we're also talking about an adulterer and a guy who takes his penis out in public. So I don't know where his moral compass is on all of this. I think he sleeps well at night.
There was who was it? It was it Micah Richards who said he's let himself down there with that. That's not. It's something like that's not in character. And Roy Keane was like, "Isn't it?"
Yeah. No, I think Micah said he's better than that, and Roy Keane's like, I don't know about that. Roy Keane's the best though. He's just like, I don't know him, but I'm really embarrassed for him.
Yeah.
Let's go to one of the other teams that has a lot of support in this trio, which is Liverpool versus Fulham. That game ended in a draw, 2-2. There were 2 yellow cards for Robertson. Sorry. The second one was him challenging on a break, or clear break apparently. And so he got his red card, which was quite controversial because a lot of people say it was quite soft. The first yellow, I think. And Slot then also voiced his anger and got a yellow card himself, so he'll be on the sideline for next week's game. Maxi, this is your team, so save for yourself.
It was a straight red, I think, first of all. Wasn't it straight red?
It was a straight red.
And my research is incorrect.
There wasn't. It's not a lot to talk about. Fulham are really good. I feel in some matches this season, we did well to come back from behind. 2 draws in a row for Liverpool in the Premier League. So Chelsea have gotten real close. But yeah, Jota's back. I think we're going to be okay. It was a good performance, and maybe some decisions went against us, but it's good to not lose those games.
Quick touch on Arsenal-Everton as well, 0-0. The wheels firmly coming off there slowly, actually, as well. And the first whisperings of massive discontent amongst Arsenal fans with Mikel Arteta. And I just want to remind all of you what I said at the beginning of the season. I said, I think this is going to be the beginning of the end of Arteta. And so far, it looks like it is the case. They've been terrible. They can't score from open play. They were atrocious on the weekend. Like everyone says, it is scary how bad they are and how bad the decline's been. So let's see if Arteta can get them out of this hole, because if he doesn't, and if they continue to slip and he doesn't win, I don't know. I don't see him. I think the chance for him winning the Premier League is then gone. I think that's it, and they're going to look to make a change after 6 years.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy and a nicer bunch of fans.
Yeah, they're lovely. And then obviously Chelsea getting the result against Brentford is really good. A couple of firings of coaches. Wolves got rid of Gary O'Neill. Finally, that just fell apart terribly as well. The players were fighting each other. The managers were fighting each other. They lost to Ipswich. Ipswich slowly but surely getting some points there. That's really good to see. And Southampton getting absolutely walloped by Spurs. They were so limp in that first half, and no surprise that Russell Martin's been fired now as well. Hats off to Southampton for saying, hey, listen, we're going to try and stick to our guns with this guy. And Wolves as well. I think that's been uncharacteristically, I don't know, I don't even know what word you would say, steadfast in them sticking to their managers, both clubs. Because I think a couple of years ago, they would have been gone way sooner. But yeah, let's see who they get in. And I think both of them are going to struggle to stay up.
I think Southampton waited a few games too much. I mean, you don't really watch Southampton if they're not playing your team. But when they played Liverpool, I was in shock at how they approached that game. They kept trying to want to pass it out the back. And it's obviously that's something that they've come up with from the Championship, and they played really well like that. But eventually you've got to adapt. You can't come to the Premier League and get absolutely beaten to a pulp every time because you're trying to play out the back and keep going with that same strategy. That is literally chopping down rocks and gluing them back together again.
Yeah. I think there was a couple of interesting observations by people saying, after Kompany got the Bayern job, a lot of people saying that, because he played such an attractive brand of football as a young manager with Burnley in the Premier League, even though they ended up getting relegated, Russell Martin might be looking at that and being like, listen, I'm going to shoot my shot here and possibly get a good job somewhere, come hell or high water, just through the football I played. But I think, as you said, he put all his cards he put all his cards in the one basket, and I think it backfired now, and I think you'll probably see that slowly change again. Managers looking to get results, and I think Kieran McKenna is one of them. He understands what the win against Wolves wasn't pretty, but he knew he had to, 3 points. That's what keeps you up. It's not how your player ratings are at the end of the day.
And then there's still the Newcastle and Leicester City 4-0, also quite a big scoring game.
Yeah, but bit of a reality check for Ruud van Nistelrooy, but also not surprising. I think Newcastle will look to win that game, and I think the time was going to come where Ruud kind of found out what the squad was about, and I also think Leicester he'll leave that game thinking, it's all right. They probably, whether you win 2-0 or 4-0, I don't think it's much of a difference, and I don't think that would have been on his list of games looking to win going into the December period now.
I saw a stat though that I think I can't remember the exact details, but they've shipped so many shots on target under Ruud van Nistelrooy in his first games. They really need to shore that up because it was something ridiculous. And I wish I had the number now, but that's worrying signs because even though it's the same losing 2-0 or 4-0, if you're conceding that many shots on target, better teams are going to do a whole lot worse to you.
100%, and I think a lot of people are judging Ruud off the back of his results for United as well as his PSV stint, and you just can't compare. The level of players, also the situations were so different. He could only get more out of that squad coming into United after Erik ten Hag's last few months in charge, and PSV are just one of the big animals in the Eredivisie. So I think he's got a lot to prove, and it's not an easy job. And I think people tend to forget that quite quickly just because he's a Premier League legend and he's come with a bit of, in inverted commas, pedigree. So he's got his work cut out for him to keep them up for sure.
I'll say that wraps up the Premier League. The other big thing that happened last week was the ICC Internationals. South Africa playing against Pakistan. There were 2 games that were scheduled, but only one of them took place because the second one got rained out. But the first one was quite interesting. Pakistan elected to bat first and set up a score of 206 for 4 wickets, and South Africa had to chase it down, which we did. It's 210 runs from 3 wickets. The big players were Hendricks with 117 and Van der Dussen with 66, and they had an amazing partnership together. I don't know if you guys saw at least the highlights, but Van der Dussen came in swinging, and so did Risa Hendricks, and really turned that game around because it was looking a little bit dire at the beginning.
I watched the full chase. It was unbelievable. I mean, funny thing about Risa is one of those players that I've always felt is like, is he really good enough to play? It's always like one of the, I don't know, but he's now actually surpassed Quinton de Kock as the highest he's got the most 50s at T20 level for South Africa. He's got the record.
Oh, really?
So obviously he's had a great T20 career. I just think he's one of those dudes that goes about his business. I think it's hard to stand out in a T20 batting lineup with people like Van der Dussen, Klaasen, and Miller around you. But brilliant. I mean, the innings was unbelievable. And every time we needed a six, he pulled one out the locker. A bit of criticism from the commentary team saying they don't think it's a good idea to defend at Centurion. I would agree. It's the ground with the highest successful defense scores in the world in international cricket.
Okay.
Not defense, sorry, chasing scores in international cricket. But 206 for four is not a bad score, and for us to chase that down is absolutely brilliant.
It didn't look like it was a bowler's day there. Even the South African bowlers seem to get slapped around quite a bit there.
Yeah, at Supersport Park, they tend to. It's a little bit like the highway that runs just left of the ground. That the pitch is usually very flat.
Maxi, were you able to watch any of the game?
No, but I just saw that it was a good chase. In other cricket news, though, Travis Head is fucking lighting it up. That oak is on some unreal form for Australia. And I actually know that this is a test match this time. Not a T20.
Well done.
It's the third test between Oz and India, and Oz are in a very good position. I think 450 or 445 they made in the first innings, and India I saw this morning were something like 50 for 4 already. So that's going to be a really good series. And
rain's causing a bit of havoc though at the Gabba. I don't know if they'll get a result. It just depends. I think if they can get 2 full days of play in, it might, but it would have to be Australia running away with it. I think that's the only way. But Travis Head he's unbelievable. I mean, he made a century in the last game. He made a century in this innings again. He's so good. And it's crazy how Australia seems to find guys. I wouldn't say he's quite like Mike Hussey, because Mike Hussey was a crazy anomaly. I think he only made his debut at 31 or something, Mike Hussey. But these guys that just flourish into their like later parts of their career, they play so much first-class cricket in Australia, do the hard yards, and then eventually they get picked at, I think he made his debut at 28. And now he's one of the best middle order batsmen in the world, and he's 31 now, I think. So amazing. And then they just tend to hold on to them and manage them. I mean, Khawaja's the same thing. Khawaja's 39 years old, and he's had an incredible career. All of it sort of past the age of 30. So good to see Steve Smith scoring a century as well for the first time in a long time. He needed that too. So definitely momentum on Australia's side, but the weather might save India in this test match.
Awesome. I don't really have much more to say to the cricket there. I guess we will then move over to the golf. Dominic, you watched some?
Yeah, just a quick take on the golf. Leopard Creek Dunhill Championship on the European Tour, co-sanctioned with the Sunshine Tour, the DP World Tour. First of all, they played in 47 degrees on Friday. It was literally 47 degrees, and these guys were playing golf in that weather. I don't know how they did it. I saw some of the players, a couple of the guys I know, Peter Moolman, for example. I texted him and he just says it was psychotic. Like it was, he said, it's like literally he says it took superhuman strength to just walk 18, never mind play golf. So interesting to see. Second week in a row, unfortunately, where a young South African shit the bed and didn't pull off what should have been a win. Ryan van Veltzen, one of our talented young players, first season on the European Tour. Also just playing the par 5 18th, needed a birdie to win it on relatively easy hole, and a par would have got him into the playoff, but he unfortunately hit his second shot in the water, ending up making 6. And an old workhorse, Sean Norris, at the age of 42, winning his second European Tour title. Big stuff for him. That's 2 years exemption on tour again. He was in tears, was quite emotional, so good for him.
Lovely. Maxi, I think at this point, run us through the play of the week that you have selected.
My play of the week goes into an entire team, and it sort of looks back not only at the last week, but a bit longer. We didn't touch on them in the Premier League section. It's Crystal Palace. They've really done well the last 5 games. They're unbeaten in the last 5. They've won 2 of them, but I think they played something ridiculous. Like they played Newcastle, Villa, City, Brighton, and someone else, but they've really turned themselves around, so good for them.
Yeah, that is brilliant, because they had a terrible start to the season, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, Glasner's in trouble here, but they've been really good." That's a great shout. Yeah.
What's your player of the week there, Dom?
It's hard not to. It's hard to not give it to United. To be honest, I have to think. I have to. It's just such an important result. I think long term, you'll look back on it and being like,
well, I mean, give it to Ahmad because he deserves it.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there were some other good performances in that team as well, and I think, yeah, Ahmad / United, I think, are my player of the week for sure.
Maxi disagrees with you. Ahmad was the only player who played well.
Yeah, spitting facts.
My player of the week goes to a man who was standing in the crowd at the South Africa-Pakistan game. Van der Dussen hit a blinder of a 4, which one bounced, went over the barrier. He was standing just on the other side of the net with his very, very small baby. And when I say small, the child was maybe like this big. Reached forward and caught the ball one-handed, almost dropped his child. The head was like bobbing around. And then and made the catch. So yeah, my player of the week goes to him for not dropping his child or dropping the ball.
Getting dropped is not so bad. I fell down as a baby and I'm fine.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, no, we know. We live with the consequences every day.
We know.
So we have a segment that we introduced last week, but were unfortunately not able to execute.
Cut off by Apple's unreliableness.
And that's why it is going to be top 5 tech companies today. No, we're going to talk about the top 5 athletes, I think, or sportsmen is what the title was, that we had selected.
Top 5 athletes of all time.
Athletes
Top
is
5
a good
athletes
one,
of all time. And Maxi, you had suggested a snake draft. Just maybe explain to me and some of the other listeners what that means and how it works.
So in order for us all to have different top 5s, we're going to go in order. We did a draw before the show started. And it's going to be me going first, Dom going second, Klaus going third. I'll get the first pick, Dom will get the second pick, Klaus will get the third and the fourth, so it'll snake back around until we have a top 5. And then we'll let the audience vote on who gets the best top 5, and that person will go first next week.
Cool. Just to confirm, so that means if you pick someone that I actually had, I have to change it?
Well, you can't pick someone that's already off the board.
Yeah, then hit us with your first selection there, Maxi.
I'm going to kick us off by going for Michael Phelps.
Great selection. I had him on my list as well.
Yeah, I had him as well, but not at number 1. My number 1 is Tiger Woods.
And I would remove a lot of people out of my list here.
I hope you've got enough.
I get selection 3 and 4. I'm going to go with Michael and Michael. Michael Jordan and Michael Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher I get. Michael Jordan I also had on my list, but I find it tough for us to, as non-basketball watchers, to put him up there. But I guess if you watched The Last Dance, he did sort of transform the sport. So good for him.
Yeah, if you get a documentary made about yourself, then I think you qualify.
All right, so now I've just got one pick, correct? I've always only got one because I'm never on the end of the snake.
Yes.
Got you. Usain Bolt is my number 2.
Nice. Yes, folks are dropping off these lists here. I'm not gonna say this is pandering to our female audience, but I do think she's the greatest athlete in that sport of all time. I'm going to go for Simone Biles.
My third, and this remember.
Oh, sorry, I get another one. I'm going to take Cristiano Ronaldo.
Christ almighty, that was my guy. That was my guy.
Yes.
Every part of me wants to actually just say Diego Maradona now, just because if you play that much football on that much cocaine, you must be made chiseled out of marble. But I'm going to. This is, I think, one that'll catch both of you by surprise. But nonetheless, I think a really good shout is Martina Navratilova. The player to win the most Grand Slams across doubles, mixed doubles, and singles of all time. And she played well into her 40s, was unbelievable. So for me, she's definitely up there. Martina Navratilova.
So then I go back to 2 picks, and I have Muhammad Ali in terms of boxing. And a controversial one in our group, because we've had many discussions about her, is Serena Williams.
No way. There's no way you're taking Serena Williams. What the hell?
I'm taking Serena Williams.
weren't you on the side of people who said that she's not the greatest? I swear when we were drunk and we were having this fight, you said that she's not good.
No. You and Bjorn were fighting all by yourself, and we all just watched the show.
You're a hypocrite.
My next pick, and this is only because I've had the carpet pulled from under me here a little bit. Very relevant also for this week is Alexander Usyk. For me, he's right up there. His record is unbelievable. He's changed. He's undefeated. He's changed weight classes multiple times. Won titles in every weight class. Never been beaten. I don't think he's going to lose again either this weekend to Fury, who was, before they fought, arguably put down as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. So I think he's an outside shout. So he'll be my number 4.
Okay. I'm going to stick with boxing, and I'm going to go Mike Tyson. I think had he not been, it's not, I can't say had he not been arrested, had he not committed crimes, he would have gone down as the greatest in history, because that man was an animal. So I'm going to go Tyson, and then with my last pick, I'm going to go with Jonah Lomu.
Oh, very nice pick. Yeah.
I'm going to go for Gerry van der Merwe, who's the 17-time Yikske world champion. No, I'm kidding. And that's not who I'm going for. I also just completely fucking made that up. You guys have got me at 6s and 7s here, but I think this is a little bit more of a, actually no, I'm just going to say it. Novak Djokovic, I think, for me is 5. I think he's so good. And I think the career he's ended up having now later, I think he's so good.
For me, the last and final pick of today's top 5 is going to go to the sport that is followed by 1.5 billion Indians.
Oh my
Sasha
God.
Tendulkar.
Sasha Tendulkar.
Sasha Tendulkar.
I think I'm going to go with
That is
him,
a crime.
because I think
It is a crime that you got his name wrong and you put him on your top 5, Klaus. That's bullshit.
3 names on my list. It was Brian Lara, Jacques Callis, or Sasha. And I think
Sasha. You keep saying Sasha. It's Sashin.
Sashin, sorry. Sashin Tendulkar.
That's I can't believe that's gone through, but the fans will get to vote on it. But I think the integrity of your top 5 is highly compromised.
Okay, let's run through each of ours again though. Maxi, kick us off.
I've got Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Cristiano Ronaldo, Mike Tyson, and Jonah Lomu.
Cool. Klaus?
Michael Schumacher, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams, and Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who my second one was. Tiger Woods. Who did I have at 2? Usain Bolt. So Tiger Woods, Usain Bolt, Martina Navratilova, Alexander Usyk, and number 5, Novak Djokovic is my top 5.
I'll put the list up on screens so that people can read them and decide.
Yes.
Dom, it seems like you got a bit ambushed by the format here.
Yeah, the thing is the problem is when you're in the middle of the snake and it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, then the oaks are just like, essentially I'm crossing off people off my list from there.
Yeah, I'm quite confident in my list.
The cool thing is I'll probably end up last, which means I won't be in the middle.
The thing is, if you end last, you go second, because second is the worst spot to be in. So,
which means I might be in the same predicament next week.
Yeah.
And we thought about how are we going to tally this up in like a season tournament? Is there, or first to 10, or what are we doing points wise? First gets, is it 3-2-1 points wise?
Yeah.
Or we just do,
or you just do the most wins.
Point.
I would say though, first to 5 is better. First to 10 is going to take a long time. That's like a whole year of episodes, possibly.
So do we just say first place gets 1 point and second and third doesn't matter? You just
it's like scoring a goal.
Okay, cool. Then we'll play first to 5, and by next week we will also decide what the winner shall receive.
Yeah, and what the loser shall do.
Oh shit! And we'll also hit you with our. We haven't decided yet on what the next top 5 is going to be, have we?
Not yet.
No. So we'll decide that, and maybe we'll post it on Instagram so people can maybe come up with their own lists and see if it matches any of ours.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us, Maxi. Dominic, thanks for coming over.
No problem.
No. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for buying data.
Yeah. Thank you for buying a lot of airtime so that you could join us.
I think I heavily overcooked it because I didn't even use that much, and now I've got like 80 gigs of data that I'm never going to be able to use in time. So yeah,
Nice.
Just stream Netflix the entire time.
No, bro, I reckon just Instagram stories, like 700 a day.
Well, good luck with you and the sun and your data. I hope you have a nice day.
Too bad you can't. Lather yourself up in data to protect yourself from the sun. Maybe you would do it then.
thanks. This has been nice and condescending. I look forward to next week.
Like, comment, subscribe, and please share it with any of your friends. And see you guys next week.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Cheers.
Okay, bye.
Toodaloo.
Bench opinions. 3 idiots with amateur analysis.